Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another exciting edition of Pardon Our Picks, where perfection is a work in progress. I'm your host, Sam. Alongside me, as always, is our esteemed co-host, Tarik. How you doing tonight?
All right. How about you?
I'm doing well. And of course, we have our frequent collaborator, Brady. How you doing tonight?
I'm feeling pretty good. I'm interested to see where this week's going to go, boys.
Oh, me too. It's been a rough couple weeks for me, as far as making our picks. But perfection is a work in progress.
Exactly.
Now, this video is brought to you by Morningwood Crafter, morningwoodcrafter.com, powered by design, crafted by hand, and into deep of Maryland. Check them out on Facebook to get their next live show. Should be a good one. So we have a few shout outs to do this week. What do you got, Tarik?
Well, we got a special happy birthday to my dad, who was born. I won't give his age, but happy birthday, Dad. Hope you're enjoying football. Hope you enjoy the video. Stay tuned.
Yes, happy birthday, Pops.
Happy birthday, Tarik's dad.
That's just what you call him if you ever meet him. Hi, Tarik's dad.
Yep. Until I'm introduced as otherwise, he's Tarik's dad.
Exactly.
Or if it's too formal, Tarik's father.
So he was born on December 7th.
Yes.
Just a few years ago, of course.
And, yes, just a few.
Yeah.
I'm actually older than him.
Yeah. Really? Interesting. Interesting dynamic you have in your family.
Exactly. I like the spasm on Brady's face.
With the three of us, it just always goes off the rails like as soon as you hit record. It's great. I love it.
It's awesome. And then when we get my brother in here, then the four of us just go nuts. So
the crowd
I think those are the best videos. It's just the four of us going nuts and off the rails.
Yeah. Although my sister has a gem or two in her. She's absolutely pretty good at that.
Yes, she's usually completely befuddled by the rest of us. So.
She should.
That's a good word.
She knows me well.
Thank you.
But speaking of being completely befuddled, how in the world is New England the number one seed? And do you guys think that's going to stick?
I'm going to say yes. Even though, I was one of them coming into the season, I didn't think they were going to do much. But I think this is just another case of Bill Belichick showing that he knows how to coach a football team. On paper, they may not be the best looking team, but they are playing, as I've said before, complementary football each and every week. Last night being the outlier here because the weather obviously played a factor in that. But they're playing solid defense. They're running the ball well. They're passing when they need to. And looking at their injury report, they may have some injuries, but all of the places where key injuries normally happen hasn't happened for them yet this year. And I think that's a huge reason for their success. Complementary football, and they're staying healthy.
Yeah, so the big question here is, I guess, is like, can anybody else match up? So Brady mentioned New England hasn't really had the injuries. Baltimore just lost like their last major corner. And I think that's going to be, I don't think it's going to be the nail in the coffin for them, but I think it's really going to hinder them and how they bounce back from this. Can they get the personnel in there to handle it? But New England, I'm just looking at the standings, the number one seeds in each division here, New England's at 9-4, and the other three, which is Baltimore, Tennessee, and Kansas City, are all at 8-4. So it's wide open for any of them to take over and be the number one seed. And I don't have all the stats. I am not as prepared as Good Morning Football here. But depending on the schedule is how that all shakes up. How are they going to do it? So my answer is no, but I don't quite have a prediction for who can take it over. I think Baltimore can, but they've been hurt a lot. Tennessee's been recovering fairly well with some of their injuries. And Kansas City's finally turning around from their bleh in the middle of the season. So we'll see.
To be honest, their record right now for New England is It's impressive. And given the fact that the rest of the season they have 2 games against teams with a winning record, and one against a surging Dolphins team who is at 6-7 has won 5 straight. Pretty impressive on their part. I feel like they're going to stumble in a couple of places. They play the Bills again in the cold weather. They play the Colts, who are a good run team, and I think they're going to struggle against that. But given the fact that I think they're going to be at least the division at this point, I think they're going to be division winners. And I think that the only team right now that may be able to catch them is the Kansas City Chiefs. Given that they're on a roll, and I think at this point they're going to dominate the rest of their own division, they may not lose a game again this year. I know that's hard to say because they were so terrible in the beginning of the season, but if I recall correctly, a couple of years ago, the Ravens had 3 or 4 losses early in the season and then rattled off 10 straight.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not unwarranted, not unheard of. I think they have the best chance, but it may come down to tiebreakers in the end.
Sounds good.
So
what do we got for the first game, Sam?
Well, we have quite an interesting game for the first one. But first, let's find out where we're sitting in the standings. All your experts.
I don't want to. I don't want to.
You don't want to? You don't
No,
want to?
I don't want to.
You're creeping up on me. If you take a look.
Oh, I did better than I thought.
You're right behind me. Brady putting a little more space between me and him.
That's not good.
And Jessica still right up there. She's just giving them all a run for their money.
It's almost like I do this for a living.
Yeah, almost.
I wish we got paid for this.
Right. But it's not in the budget. So
because we don't have one.
Exactly. And our sponsors aren't exactly paying us. They're there.
We're just doing
one day they will.
Yeah. One day I'm going to extract payment from Morningwood Crafter. Designed, crafted by hand. Anywho, given all that information, it looks like Brady did win the week. Tarik right behind him. Me and Jessica tied at 8-6, and of course Brian and Tom had a 7-7 record, at least breaking even, and keeping it close amongst the top 4, close-ish amongst the top 4. So it's going to come down to the last. It's going to be a very interesting couple of weeks. All right, guys, let's move on to our game of the week. And I believe, Brady, what's your game of the week?
My game of the week this week is the San Francisco 49ers going into Cincinnati against the Bengals. So I was looking at the games this week, and this one stood out to me for a couple of reasons. One, because both of these teams are in desperate need of a win after last week. You know, the Bengals, they got shellacked by the Los Angeles Chargers, and San Francisco, against a struggling Seattle offense, gave up 30 points and lost the game in the final 3 seconds. Both of these teams are desperate for a win. Cincinnati needs this win because Baltimore is stumbling because of injuries and many other issues on the front. And San Francisco needs this win to just stay in pace in their division. I think this game is going to be very tightly contested. But I personally have the 49ers winning this game. I think they play a bit more of that complimentary football that I praise New England so much for. They may get Deebo Samuel back this week. They may not. But I still think that San Francisco has a few more pieces in place than Cincinnati, even though I think this is only going to be a 3-point game.
All right. Yeah, I mean, this is going to be that's a very good pick. This is going to be interesting. It's in Cincinnati. Cincinnati's done really well. They're creeping up there. San Francisco's been hit or miss depending. They've had some injuries themselves. So it's sort of big. I'm going with Cincinnati on this one. I've just given them a little bit of home field advantage. They don't make it easy on the teams even when they lose. And Yeah, San Francisco got a little bit complimentary. They look a little cleaner when they win, when they play. Apologies for my phone. I will turn that off in a second. But so yeah, I'm going with Cincinnati. Sam?
Oh, these two teams, yeah, they definitely struggled last week. And given that I had the Bengals winning based on their defense last week, kind of hard to win based on defense when your offense is giving the ball up all the time. They kicked themselves in the butt in that game. They almost came back and won it, but as soon as they got within 2 points, they gave up a touchdown. The offense gave up a touchdown, and it just went downhill from there. I think that their defense is the key to winning this game. However, San Francisco, their run game's been pretty good. Their receiving core has been decent, middle of the pack, not great. I think Jimmy G is probably going to be on his way out after this year, but he's been holding it together. They both are in prime playoff position right now, and they both desperately need this win. Bengals because they want to win that division, and San Francisco because they want to stay in that playoff race. But I do have the Bengals in this one, and yes, I do agree it is going to be a close game. It could go either way, but Bengals for me. All right, Tarik, let's move on to your game of the week.
All right, so this is game of the week for different reasons than we usually pick here. I think this is just going to be interesting. So I got Baltimore and Cleveland here. So Baltimore, as we know, as we already discussed, they're just injury plagued this year with everything they've hit. They're on backups to the backups. We could almost try out right now and make the team. So they're.
Not me, I'd pass out at the 50.
So I'd probably pass out when that defensive line just came running at me. I'd probably scream and run the other way. But because even at 6 foot, I think they're all bigger than me. But so they're just plagued. Browns, they're going through some injuries too. You've got it's not Brady Quinn. My brain just.
I mean, it might as well be Brady Quinn the way he's been playing.
But he's been hurt. He's trying to throw it with the other shoulder. He's trying to tough through that. They've been going with some backups. It's a division game. It's always dirty. It's always, I mean, as we just saw with Baltimore playing Pittsburgh on Sunday, these division games in the AFC North are crazy. They play dirty. They play rough. It's very what I call blue collar football. So even if one of these teams suck, it's always gonna be rough. I'm going with Baltimore in hopes that they just find somebody's in corner. They got no power corner anymore, and I think that's going to be their downfall. But we'll see what happens. I'm going with Baltimore. Brady?
So you said earlier, Tarik, that losing Marlon Humphrey wouldn't be the final nail in the Ravens' coffin this season. I think it is. I do not think that the corners that we have, quote unquote, healthy on the Ravens, I say we because I am a fan, are going to be enough to stop what Cleveland has in the passing attack. The run attack, we held up the last time we played. The last time the Ravens played the Browns, let me get out of saying like I actually play for the team. The Baltimore Ravens defense kept Nick Chubb in check, and the Browns really didn't use Kareem Hunt, which was interesting. But I think this is going to be the week where the Browns are going to go back to that two-headed monster in the backfield with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, and then complementary pass the football so Baker Mayfield isn't required to throw the ball 30 to 40 times a game. So I have the Cleveland Browns winning this game just based on their running attack, and the Ravens just have too many injuries to overcome at this point.
There's an interesting tidbit with the AFC this year, there's 13 teams with 6 or more wins. The max number of wins is 9 by the New England Patriots. Given that the 7th seed is at 7-5, Cleveland Browns are just outside right now. However, there's so many teams vying for a playoff spot, and they're all pretty good. The AFC's been they're kind of beating themselves up at this point, with all those records so close. Baltimore, yeah, they have those injuries at cornerbacks, and I think that's going to be a huge problem. Baker Mayfield coming off a bye, he's got a chance to rest finally. Kareem Hunt now healthy. I think 2 weeks ago when they played him, he wasn't healthy. He was injured. So that's kind of the reason why. I think that's why they held him out of that game. But I believe in the two-headed monster they have in that backfield with Chubb and Hunt, and they're going to be able to use the play action to set up the passing game. I think this is a get well game for the Cleveland Browns. They get the victory, get to 7-6, and get themselves one more step closer to the playoffs. All right, let's move on to the next game. We have the Buffalo Bills going against the Tampa Bay Tom Brady's in what was formerly a AFC East matchup for Tom. So he's well aware of the ins and outs of the Buffalo team. Brady, what do you have in this game?
So I looked at this game as potentially my game of the week. The Buffalo Bills really aren't playing up to really anybody's predictions for this season. Standing at 7-5, 2 games back in their division. It's not looking good for them right now. And I think they've picked a really bad time to go into Tampa Bay and play Tom Brady. But the Buccaneers defense is getting very thin at corner like the Ravens. They suffered a couple of injuries last week, and Buffalo has a lot of weapons on offense. But Tom Brady is still playing at an NFL MVP caliber season in his 50th season or whatever this is. So I have Tom Brady beating the entire state or entire city of Buffalo by himself in this solely for the fact that it's Tom Brady.
Tarik?
I don't know how to follow that up, but I don't hate the man. I hate what the man represents.
You don't hate the player, you hate the game?
Yes. So I was Colts fan. I'm a Broncos fan. I think the only real way you're a fan of Tom Brady is if you either lived in New England or now Tampa Bay. I think it's cool. It's good for Tampa Bay because I don't know how they'd be on the map otherwise. The last good quarterback they had, I think, was Chris Sims, and he flaked out. He got hurt and never recovered. So they're not really doing anything since. So in that sense, I like Tampa Bay. We'll go with that. But it's Tom Brady. He's going against the Bills. He knows how to play the Bills. He knows how to play the game. He knows how to win. He knows what to do. This is not new territory for him. He's like, oh, I know what to do here. So, yeah, I got Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Tom Brady's winning this.
All right. The Tampa Bay team, of course, coming off a bye, if I'm not mistaken. Given that last week they definitely needed that break. I think they were at that point where Tom Brady's legs were probably getting a little tired. I mean, he's been carrying his team for so long.
His quads are screaming. His quads and hammies are screaming.
Yeah. Buffalo got completely blown off the field last night. It wasn't pretty. I'm pretty sure as they were being, sheltered back into the locker room. That's probably when all those cornerbacks got hurt. All that wind and stuff like that. It just it was terrible. It was a horrible game. 50-mile-an-hour gusts.
Yeah.
And 3 passes by New England. How? How do you win with that?
And they just ran. Yeah.
Because it's 2021. That's why.
Sure. We'll go with that excuse.
For another 4 weeks, 3 weeks.
But given the fact that Tampa Bay's defense hasn't looked too great. They've been giving up points. The Bills, of course, have also been giving up points. I'm really having a hard time picking this game. This is one of those games that I think it can go either way, but I got Buffalo with the victory here simply because they need it more.
He's got to pick you against you, Brady, in order to win.
That's fair. I mean,
no, not necessarily.
I mean, if you want to be the man, you got to beat the man. So
you're going for Tarik's crown.
Yeah, but I already have Tarik's crown as co-host at this point.
You wish.
Let's move on to the next game. We have the Monday night game. The Los Angeles Rams going into the 10-2 Arizona Cardinals.
What do you think's going to happen, Sam?
Oh, man.
Turn the tables on you.
Given the history of these two teams this year and the previous couple of years, Kyler Murray, before he went out last week when he came back, he's just looking phenomenal. It's impressive the kind of season that him and Hopkins are putting up this year. You guys are funny. I just noticed that.
I wanted to see how long he could ignore us.
I just noticed it. I wasn't ignoring you. I didn't even see it until I said so.
If you had made it to the end of your explanation, I was going to give you a slow clap.
The Rams with their trade deadline acquisition hasn't exactly panned out as the greatest defense of all time, as they were at least hoping it would be better than it was, which was pretty good. But it seems to have regressed a bit. They're giving up more points since that trade than they were before the trade. Their offense has not been putting up quite as many points. Stafford has been starting to throw more interceptions, and he seems to have struggled a bit more. Going into Arizona, I have the Cardinals going to 11-2, and just about locking up that division.
I'm going to agree with you, Sam. Oh, sorry, Tarik.
No, you're good.
This?
Go ahead. Go.
I will say I'm going to agree with Sam. Kyler Murray came back last week, and it looked like he hadn't taken a day off in his life. He ran the ball well. He threw the ball efficiently, and they played, buzz phrase of the week, complimentary football. They ran the ball well with James Conner, and they threw the ball when they had to, and they were up big late. So the stats may not look like it, but the entire team had a great game. Now, on the other hand, if you look at the Rams, they have not played great football. Last week, they put up a lot of points against the Jaguars, which the three of us could probably put up a lot of points against the Jaguars. So I don't
hard
think.
To take down.
Yeah, I think last week was more indicative on how good the Cardinals are as an entire team versus that the Rams are back on offense or anything like that. I don't think this game's going to be close, honestly. I think the Cardinals are going to get away with this early, and they're going to wind up having the same kind of games they did last week where they're able to run the ball, because even Jacksonville was able to run the ball somewhat efficiently against the Rams. So when you put an actual good offense in front of that defense, I don't think it's going to be pretty.
I kind of hope it is over early because I would like to get some sleep.
I don't watch every Monday Night Football game, but I'm glad we're scored based on the overall outcome and not the meat in between the sandwich. Not like how big the gap is and everything. Because I'm also agreeing with you, Sam, and by proxy, Brady, that with Arizona, I think Arizona is going to win it. I think they're going to win it handily. I don't think it's going to be quite that big, but I think they're going to score up front. And they're going to just stay in front and just stiff arm the rest of the game. So
there's that stiff arm right there.
Yeah.
I'm wondering when you're going to break that out this season.
Oh yeah. Break it out.
All right, guys, let's move on to our quick hitters. We're going to start with the Thursday night game. The Pittsburgh Steelers, fresh off their victory over Baltimore, going against the Minnesota Vikings, fresh off their loss to the formerly winless Lions. Brady?
I've got the Vikings in this one. Even without Adam Thielen and Dalvin Cook, I still think the Steelers aren't a solid team. Going up against the Ravens, who are injury plagued and currently just offensively plagued, they still almost lost that game. I think the Vikings have enough on paper to stop them.
I think it's a game of who's gonna lose first here. So I don't think either team's playing really well. Brady brought some really good points. I'm going with the Steelers just because I think Minnesota is going to be so deflated at the fact they lost to the Lions.
180 some yards receiving for Justin Jefferson, and they still couldn't get a victory. It was sad to see that from a team that was vying for a playoff spot and still kind of is, given the fact that somebody's walking behind me. And the Steelers barely escaped from the Ravens, who were, quite hobbled. And for that matter, the Steelers, they're really not as good. It was more an emotional game than anything else, is the reason why I think they were even in it at the end. But I do have the Vikings in this one. So move on to the next one. We have those 2-10 Jaguars we spoke of recently going against the leaders of their own division, the Tennessee Titans.
Titans.
We all know the Titans stumble against the bad teams. But coming off the bye week, the Tennessee Titans take this game.
I think I used up all my time on the previous one. Titans win. Let's move on to the next game. We have the Las Vegas Raiders going into Kansas City to play those Chiefs. Who you got?
Close game, but Kansas City.
Kansas City.
Kansas City at home, 8-4, leading the division, trying to stiff arm the competition behind them. I have Kansas City. All right, we have what I would say is a fairly interesting matchup. A crappy New York Jets team going against a downtrodden New Orleans team.
New Orleans. I can't really root for the Jets here. So
coin flip. Landed on Saints.
Ooh, I think this is going to be a close game, but I have the Saints winning this simply because it's hard to pick the Jets.
Exactly.
To do anything.
But I will say the Jets are better than I thought they would be this year with 3 victories.
Your bar must have been really low.
It was low.
And I had them as my sleeper team to make the playoffs and everything.
How'd that turn out?
Oh, you're so cute.
I know. I know. They have the potential. They're just terrible. Let's move on to the next game. The Dallas Cowboys going in to play Washington. In my opinion, this is going to be interesting because Washington still has two games left against Dallas, and they're only 2 games back. They absolutely could catch Dallas, but I think Dallas puts distance between them this week and gets the victory.
Yeah, Dallas is trying to prove they're better than they've been in decades. I'm going with Dallas.
Dallas with the distance.
All right, clean sweep there. Okay. Surprise, Brady. You usually pick the Washington football team.
I think Washington's offense is going to be a little bit too slow to keep up with Dallas this week.
Okay. Move on to the 5-7 Falcons going against those Carolina Panthers. Cam Newton, of course, leading that squad. Who you got?
I've got Atlanta for no other reason than Cam has not looked great this year.
I'm going with Carolina for reasons.
And also no CMC, no victory. I'm sticking with that phrase.
Well, they got Chuba Hubbard, but given the fact that Cam Newton looks like Cam Newton of the most recent future, I got Atlanta winning this one. Move on to the next game. We have this recently victorious Seattle Seahawks going against the recently shut out Houston Texans.
The NFL's
Sorry, I'm
done a
falling
really
asleep.
good. Go ahead.
I was going to say,
I wanna
sorry,
talk
I'm falling
too, with
asleep
everybody
thinking
talking.
about this game. Seattle.
All right. I was just gonna say the NFL's done a really good job of scheduling these really crappy teams all together at the end of the year. But yeah, Seattle.
I have.
And then
I've been picking Seattle all year, except for last week when they won. And you know, I'm tired of picking them, but I'm picking them this week because the Texans are terrible. Move on. We have those recently victorious Detroit Lions. Maybe they do have a bit of a bite left to them, going against those Denver Broncos who just laid down for Kansas City last week.
I think even sleeping, Denver could probably beat Detroit. I think last week was kind of a fluke, so I'm going with Denver.
I think this is going to be a close game. I think Detroit's going to kind of have a pep in their step, but I think Williams, the rookie running back in Denver, I think he's going to have a career game this week. Denver.
You know, the Vikings also kind of slept on the Lions last week, and they lost. I am not picking the Lions. I'm picking the Detroit, the Denver Broncos. The
Detroit Broncos.
The damn Pistons are going to beat them. But yeah, I got the Broncos. Of course, my 4:00 games have been pretty terrible recently, so take that with a grain of salt. Let's move on. We have the New York Giants going against those Los Angeles Chargers.
Brady?
I got the Chargers in this one. I just don't think New York can play offense without Daniel Jones, and even when they have Daniel Jones, it's not great.
Yeah, I'm going with the Chargers.
Yeah, New York's pretty well, very terrible on offense. The Chargers they're really only one game out of first place in their own division. I got the Chargers keeping pace. Let's move on to the Sunday night game. We have the Chicago Bears 4-8 going against those Green Bay Packers. All but that close to locking up their division.
I think they lock it up. Packers.
Packers win on the back of their defense this week.
If the Packers win this week and Minnesota loses, the Packers clinch their division. I have the Packers winning, but not clinching their division just yet. All right, there we go.
Thank you guys very much for watching. Thank you for sticking with us. Leave a comment down below. Tell us who you think we're going to win. Tell us how we're wrong. Tell us how we're right. Feed Brady's ego a little bit because he needs it apparently.
I live for it.
Again, happy birthday to my dad. And as always, I'm Tarik.
I'm Brady. Happy birthday, Tarik's dad.
I'm Sam. Happy birthday, Pops. And you have a great football week.
Just my dad. No one else. Just my dad.
Well, he's going to be rooting for the Cowboys alongside
me. Well, yes, of course he is.
America's team.
Hell yeah.
All right. Bye, guys.
Good night.